Spending and tax hikes, tax and spend. President Biden speaking about his plan to raise taxes and the more than $2 trillion infrastructure proposal yesterday in Georgia, this one day after his first joint session address to Congress.
It's the biggest jobs plan in this country since World War II. And here's what it does. It creates jobs rebuilding and modernizing our roads, our highways, our bridges, our ports, our airports. It will provide clean drinking water for every American. I promise you, no one making under $400,000 a year is going to pay a single additional penny in tax. It's time for the richest 1% of Americans and corporate America to start to do their part.
Joining me now, Florida Congressman, House Homeland Security and Transportation and Infrastructure Committee member Carlos Gimenez. Congressman, great to see you. I have a lot to say about what Biden has said in the last couple of days, but what do you say?
I say that, it's $6 trillion since the President Biden took office that the Democrats and the president are trying to push through. They already got $1.9 trillion of it through the COVID package, even though we still have $1 trillion left to spend from the original COVID package. They're saying that they need to stimulate the economy, and yet even in his speech, he said that America's coming back. Our growth is over 60%. 6%, I'm sorry, and here in Florida, our unemployment rate is down to 4%. All we needed to do was open up. We didn't need to put all this money, that additional money that the Biden administration is trying to spend, and really basically stealing the future from our children and our grandchildren. You know, when you say $1 trillion, that's easy to say. That's $1,000 billion, and so they're trying to spend $6,000 billion in the span, or appropriate that in the span of 100 days, and then they say only the corporations are going to pay for this, and only the rich are going to pay for it. Okay, if you believe that, I got a bridge to sell you.
Well, it's as if these number one, these tax increases wouldn't pay for the vast array of new programs and spending that Biden and co. have introduced. They wouldn't raise the revenue that they're saying, number one, and it is truly laughable to assert that this will not hurt anyone, that raising the capital gains tax rate to the highest level, 43.4%, the highest level in modern history, won't have an impact on grandpa, grandma, mom, dad, and anyone who owns stocks or is invested in the stock market or assets.
Well, it hurts investment here in America at a time when we need more and more private investment in order to get our economy moving back again. We're now going to be taxing corporations and also the ones that are doing the investing to the point where they won't be able to do that. You'll have flight again, corporate flight out of the United States. It'll go to other countries. We will lose jobs. We won't be gaining jobs. Look, it's a different philosophy. I believe that the greatness of this country is based on the private sector. It's individual Americans using their ingenuity to create new jobs, to innovate. That's what's the greatness of America. The Biden administration and the Democrats think that somehow government is the one that's going to create all these jobs. We need to tell you what it's going to be, who's going to win, what we need to produce, et cetera. And every time that's happened around the world, it's a complete failure. And so, we're completely against it. The Republicans, my colleagues there in Congress, are completely against this plan. We are willing to work with the administration on a common sense infrastructure plan that really is about infrastructure, not all the other things that are put into this under the guise of infrastructure, but have nothing to do with infrastructure. And so, it's just a spending spree. I think they believe that they're not going to be around in 2 years. They're not going to have the majority, and they need to get everything done right now. Yeah,
Joe Biden was talking about roads and bridges. Well, in a $2.3 trillion infrastructure plan, the money toward roads and bridges is $115 billion. So that's really how much infrastructure is in that plan. Let's turn to the border, the crisis, the chaos. Yesterday, Maria spoke with former President Donald Trump on his reaction to President Biden's congressional address. Here's what he had to say and commented on one subject that the president didn't even bring up.
Well, one thing is that he didn't discuss the border and the fact that tens of thousands of people are pouring into our country, many of them criminals, many of them people from jails, many of them doing acts that you don't even want to know about. And they're pouring into our country by the thousands at a level that's never been seen before. It's out of control. It could destroy our country if it keeps going. And the longer it goes, the harder it is to stop.
Congressman, your reaction to what President Trump said?
Well, we do have thousands of people flocking across the border. We have thousands of unaccompanied minors that are coming across the border. We are enriching the multinational cartels on the other side of the river to the tune of hundreds of millions, if not $1 billion per month. They're actually making more money out of human trafficking than they are drug trafficking. And then the human trafficking is actually helping their drug trade because they pour hundreds of migrants into an area, Customs and Border Protection go to that area, leaves other areas unprotected, and in come the drugs. And also, we stopped building the wall. But here's the worst part about the wall, okay? We stopped building it. We're still paying the contractors to not build the wall, which is one of the things that Customs and Border Patrol protection agents have said is one of the tools that they really need in order to be able to control the situation at the border.
Congressman Gimenez, thank you so much for being here this morning. We'll see you again very soon, I hope.
Thank you very much.